Check 1 2. Check 1 2.
Yeah. Okay. Is the mic ready?
Oh, there's always, oh.
All right, everyone, we're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. If I could all get you to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Crystal, if you could help us with the roll call, please.
Okay, Commissioner Aker,
Here.
Commissioner Cahalan,
Here.
Commissioner Schultz,
Here.
Commissioner Krenke,
Here.
Commissioner Merrick,
Here.
Commissioner Jahinski,
Here.
Commissioner Hausman,
Here.
Mayor Atwell,
Present.
Scott Hussinger,
Here.
and Amy Barrows.
Great, thank you. All right, we're looking for approval of the minutes, but there's one correction that we need to make to it. They reflect Laura as being present at the last meeting when she was not present. So if we can get a motion with that correction, that'd be great.
Move to approve with the correction for Laura's presence or absence.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, passes. Okay, we'll move on to number 5, citizens' comments on consent agenda. Any citizens that would like to make a comment on the consent agenda? Seeing no citizens, do we have any citizens? I don't think so. All right, we'll move on. Citizens' comments for consent agenda are closed, and we'll move to the consent agenda, 6A and B.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Give it to Dan. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, passes. All right, we'll move on to number 7, public hearing number 1. Topic, text amendment to Chapter 52, City of Delafield zoning ordinance, specific sections 52-230, 9A, and possible other sections related to the topic. Matter, amend the text of Chapter 52, specifically 52-930A, 9A, and possible other sections related to directional signage in the residential, architectural, and conservancy districts to accommodate off-premises businesses. Is there anyone that would like to speak to this public hearing? Anyone that would like to speak to this public hearing number 1? Seeing none, public hearing number 1 is now closed. Move on to public hearing number 2, topic text amendment for Chapter 52, City of Delafield zoning ordinance. Matter, amend the text of Chapter 52, special section 52-110, permitted accessory uses in all residential districts, and section 52-291, zoning board of appeals, and possible other sections related to the modified regulations related to accessory uses, and to require the presence of the city attorney or designee at the zoning board of appeals meeting. Is there anyone that would like to speak to public hearing number 2? Anyone for public hearing number 2? Seeing none, public hearing number 2 is now closed. We'll move on to number 8.
Kent, you didn't give your usual dismissal spiel for people on the consent agenda. I don't know if there's any here yet.
Extraterritorial CSM? They're raising
Usually,
their hands.
That was approved, wasn't it?
Approved.
You were
You're
just
done.
approved. You're out of here.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am, I see what you're saying. Yes, please. It's the recordable document.
So I didn't know. It went so fast, I didn't.
Thank you. So,
Good.
yes, we'll call you in with the signatures
And I'm
tomorrow.
told I need to go to another meeting after this for.
Oh,
another
actually,
part
yeah.
of City of
Nope, I'm gonna
Delafield?
give this back to you. You have to go to common council. Bring it to the common council meeting.
City of
not mine.
Delafield Common
Yes.
Council, okay.
In February. Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Dan.
I saw one person get up and leave, and maybe the others are gonna sit there for the whole meeting again.
Well, yeah. Okay, are there any citizens' comments for anything else on the agenda? Seeing no citizens' comments are now closed. Number 9, unfinished business, we have none. 10, new business, A, DLC 0733994001. DLC 0733994 and DLC 0733995, 31385 Hill Road, owner Divine Redeemer Church, applicant Janet Barr. Applicant is requesting a business plan of operation approval for Divine Redeemer Early Childhood Development Center. Is the applicant here? Is the applicant here? Divine Redeemer. All right, we'll skip that. Maybe they'll show up late. Move on to 10B, DLC 0786064, DLC 076866065, 1725 West Shore Drive, DLC 07860620001, West Shore Drive, and DLC 0786063 West Shore Drive. Owner Scott Motto, Thomas Spengler, and Waukesha County Land Conservancy Incorporated. Applicant Scott Motto. Applicant is requesting a certified survey map approval to combine and modify 4 existing lots of record into 2 lots of record. Is the applicant here? Come on up, sir. Yes, please.
Either side?
Either side, and push the button. When you get the red light, you're live to speak. Big button at the bottom. There you go. And if you could talk into the mic and give us your name and address, please.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Attorney Stephen Schmucke. I'm here on behalf of the Waukesha County Land Conservancy, which is one of the parties that is interested in the certified survey map before you. I'm here not as a representative of the applicant, Scott Motto per se, but we are interested in the map because we are looking to acquire by donation from the current owner a section of that map to add to land that we currently hold on West Shore Drive. So I'm happy to answer any questions any of you have. I'm quite familiar with the transaction because we've been involved with the current owner and Mr. Motto on the process, and I think I can probably address any questions you may have.
But Mr. Motto isn't here today.
He is not here. I talked to him a little earlier. I thought he was going to be on his way, but I'm not sure
Okay,
of that for sure. I don't know that positively.
okay. Well, you want to give us the spiel, Amy?
Sure. So I don't, Mike, can you put my screen on? I just want to explain to the plan commissioners what's happening here. So if you look at the screen, that's the Waukesha County GIS map, the area in blue, there's 4 legal lots of record right now. The area in blue, and then this other area that I just clicked on, those are 2 lots where the house crosses the interior lot line, and then a detached garage also crosses in between the 2 lots. So those 2 will be combined, as well as this strip of land that is along West Shore Drive will be attached to that as well. That's where the driveway comes off of that. And then, so that is all right now. Currently, it was owned by the same individual. That individual sold the 2 little pieces to Scott Motto, and now he's acquiring this extra little chunk. So that'll be 1 lot, is 2 plus a portion of a lot, if that makes sense. And then that lot will go a little bit further west than the existing lot lines to give them a little bit more green space. And then the Waukesha Land Conservancy currently owns the area that's blue on the screen, and then they're going to also attach the rest of this larger parcel to their parcel. So the certified survey map includes 2 lots. When it's all said and done, the Land Conservancy will own all of the open space, which includes quite a bit of wetland and natural resource area, and then Mr. Motto will own the rest of it. One of the conditions was that an easement be provided for access to the Land Conservancy to get to the back of the property, because most of that property along West Shore is wetland, and then also for emergency vehicles to get back there. So in the packet, you'll also see an easement agreement, which looks fine, except for that the surveyor is recommending that the easement be drawn so that it's 12 feet wide, which the fire department is fine with, but that it be centered on the existing driveway, which will be the mechanism that people actually use for the easement, or just be widened so that it at least gets to the other side of the driveway. So that would need to be done prior to the CSM going to Common Council. And then the surveyor also commented on how right now there seems to be a a used driveway. I mean, it's not improved, but a dirt path that goes across what will become the Land Conservancy property. It sounds like that will no longer be used by Mr. Amato, so that should not be a problem going forward and does not need to be part of an easement. So the comments, on the CSM, if you look at the staff report, I had a few notes and comments that need to be addressed. The surveyor had some comments and notes that need to be addressed. The engineer is asking for an additional right-of-way on West Shore Drive. You can see that the private lots go into the actual physical road. So he's asking that the area be dedicated 5 feet past the existing pavement edge. So that'll tweak the lot sizes a little bit, but both of these lots will be, essentially, the lots will be getting bigger and more conforming, and so provided they meet the comments and conditions before Common Council, I would recommend approval.
I'll make a motion to recommend approval of the CSM, provided the planner, engineer, surveyor comments are addressed prior to the final CSM being presented to the Common Council for review and approval.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion?
Well, I'm just curious, I should have done this, but can you scroll up, I'm trying to figure out where this is, north-south to,
You want me to zoom out a little
yeah,
bit?
zoom out a little bit.
There's a ditch opposite that runs into the lake from this area, if you're not aware.
Okay, all right, I got you. And the current property owner is the Conservancy the property owner to the south of the,
They're the property owner of, Mike doesn't have it on, of part of.
Mike, can you switch that back, please?
Can you put the map on,
yes,
Mike?
who owns the property immediately to the south?
Of what Motto will own, it's part of the CSM though.
Okay,
So
okay.
it's attached to West Shore Drive, and then they'll acquire additional acreage to the west.
Okay,
So it is part of the CSM, which is great.
awesome, okay, good.
A win-win.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
I think so.
great.
Just a little background, when we first started this process, it seemed like a difficult one, but
Really?
with the Land Conservancy working with Mr. Motto, it seemed to come to a win-win solution like you're suggesting, so.
Good.
All right, seeing no other discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thanks for coming. Okay. We are on to the next page. 10C. DLC 079302 1002 705 Genesee Street. Owner 705 Genesee Street LLC. Applicant Kevin Piskey. Hendricks Commercial Properties LLC. Applicant is requesting permanent signage approval for additional signs and site plan appearance and approval to modify the exterior of the west building. I'm sure the applicant is here for this one. You guys can turn on your mics till you see the red light and give us your name and addresses, then we'll have Amy give us an overview.
Kevin Piskey, Hendricks Commercial Properties at 525 3rd Street, Beloit, Wisconsin.
I'm Kent Johnson, architect with Johnson Design, 211 West 2nd Street, Connewauk, Wisconsin.
Okay. So a few months ago, Hendricks came in and proposed a multi-tenant signage program for the property. Now they're proposing some additional wayfinding signage. Specifically, the west elevation, or I'm sorry, the north elevation of the west building is where one of the lower level overhead doors is. They would like to put a trash room sign on each side of that door. The background will match the building, and then they'll have the black block letter type that just says trash room. It's like 2 square feet on each sign. So that seems pretty minimal. And then they'll also have a parking sign above another one of the entrance doors. That would be the west elevation of the west building, facing, what is that, Dobkins? Dobkins, I believe. And that same kind of signage, the background will match the building color and facade, and then they'll have the simple letters. And then on each building, they would like to have address signage above the doors. So the main street is it will be, they'll have aluminum letters, and that'll be like a chrome color, or silver, is it silver? Will it be a silver color, or
Polished aluminum.
polished aluminum?
Silver.
Color. And then the east building will have 705 Genesee Street in black. And then the application did not note the font on these signs. Do you know what font will be used?
The font for the address signs is consistent with the rest of our signage for the property.
Okay.
It is Modern is the name of the font.
And that's the same font that you're using on the
The monument sign.
monument sign? Okay, great. Great.
Okay.
I was hoping we'd have consistency between it all, and it sounds like we
Yes.
do.
Okay. And then beside that, am I missing anything on the signage? No. Then they're also proposing on the west building, the south facade will have, they're proposing a gable at the top of the building. As you know, the building is 55 feet tall, and this will increase the height of that portion 7.5 feet, but it's not inclusive of the height definition, which is really to the top plate of the building. So it's up to you whether or not you do or don't want to approve it. And then they're proposing a flagpole extended from that, and a flag, and hold on, I will tell you. The flag itself will be 8 feet wide by 5 feet tall, and then the pole will extend 85 feet above grade. That's from the ground surface. Part of that pole will be hidden behind the gable, and then part of it would stick out. And then on the gable would include the year 2024. And then do you also know the font of that number? Any chance, 2024?
The drawing said to be determined by owner.
Okay. I don't have it determined at this point. I guess probably just something very standard and legible, similar to a Helvetica or Arial.
So with the 2024 in the packet, they don't identify the font style or material of that particular.
And in theory, that number is going to be there in excess of 100 years. What material are you planning to make those numbers out of? I'm hoping it's a durable choice
Yes.
that doesn't peel or need repainted or.
Do aluminum or definitely something, I mean, we want it to look good just as much as everybody else. This is kind of the feature point in our building. I guess we haven't defined that yet. I think as we get further in this process, we'll have that defined, but something that will hold up to weathering and look good for years.
So maybe in our motion to approve, we can put a contingent on staff review once the applicant does make the decision.
Okay, and then I believe that's it. So we've got the gable, the date, the 2024, the flag, and the wayfinding signage. So I do recommend approval of the additional signage as presented. It meets all of the code requirements, and the flagpole and gable would be up to your discretion.
And I have one question on the flag. That's going to, it's going to get some high winds up there. It's going to need replaced every 30, 60 days or something. Do you have an easy way to get up there to be able to change that?
Yeah, we have manhole access to the roof.
Okay.
And then off the backside of that gable, the way the flagpole is positioned, there'll be access to the rope and pulley for replacement. It is Hendricks Commercial Properties standard that any flag we replace every 6 months regardless.
Okay.
will be at least replaced every 6 months.
Yeah.
If there's any other issues, it will be
Yeah.
more frequent.
Gonna get some whipping winds up there.
Yeah.
Could be a dumb question, but why is Main Street and Genesee different colors or different font? Is there any reason why? Is it
I believe it's the way that it's printed on that one. Oh, it's because the Genesee sign goes on the building. The Main Street one goes on the canopy. The canopy will be a dark color, so a dark color would not contrast against on that building.
Got it.
I don't have a problem with, I don't know if you're calling it a canopy or the peak. I do have a question, just out of curiosity, if the definition of a building height is what we intended, or is there a law of unintended consequence where, despite this one, which I don't have a problem with, it could cause somebody to do something that we might have an issue with, but we can't do anything about?
Scott can probably answer that for us the best.
I think our concern was bulk building height,
Right.
not height of architectural projections and other things. So that's what I remember.
Yeah, that's how I remember it. We basically said, here's the maximum height the building and floor structure can be, and we really put no limit above that for cupolas or architectural features above it. There's, to my understanding of those discussions, which were lengthy over multiple meetings, we just left that alone and left that at the discretion of the planning commission at the time, depending upon the situation.
Okay, thanks.
I like the gable roof. I think it gives the building a little character. Otherwise, it seems very linear. The only question I had, and this is very hard to read, is all flags have to be lit. Where is the lighting for the flag?
Yeah,
mounted?
the lighting's at the base of the gable, pointing up on each side to flood the flag.
Is that going to be a problem in the winter months? You get a lot of snow?
I think we'll position them high enough up off the edge that
Okay.
that should not be an issue.
And it'll be easy to change.
Yeah, because
When needed.
they'll likely be off the back side of that gable where it's accessible for somebody to
Okay,
get to.
thank you.
I have a question. What's the onus for adding the gable? I mean, this is one of the more vetted buildings in the city in a long time. And, it's approved, I mean, it's been sitting there on plans and through public hearings and under development for a long time. And,
Over 3 years.
yeah, and I'm just curious, what design element is this adding? To me, it seemed rather appropriate how the building was sold as it was presented back from conception as kind of more of an industrial building, and then the granary kind of played off of that, and then there was some stylistic things added to the other building on the east side that really made that stand out as kind of like the hallmark, or the attention grabber. And this, not that this is an afterthought, this is just a smart building in and of itself, and this seems to change the architecture kind of to a federalist thing, almost like the Congress Hall in Philadelphia or something. But it seems like the peak is disproportionately small compared to the size of the building. It's just adding height and an element, and I'm not sure who it's playing to, because there's a building right across the street, and I don't know where you're going to see it, is really my point. And it's changing an architecture and making a building higher that was already kind of controversial as far as its size and height. So where'd the idea or necessity come? Because this isn't free to do. Why is this better, is my question.
I have to kind of acquiesce in terms of answering that, because I don't know exactly. We were, as architects, we were given a sketch and given direction that someone who has indicated they would like this on the building, and perhaps out of respect for certain people that might have been added to this building. I don't want to speculate. name names, I don't really know. Internally, I think Hendricks looked at it and felt that it was an appropriate addition for the reason I don't know. Maybe Kevin can talk to that a little bit. I do think it, I do think it gives the building a little bit more centrality, a little bit more of a balance. It does look a bit more Federalist or a little bit more toward Delafield side. But I think there's a lot of elements of Delafield in here in addition to the elements that Hendricks wants to introduce, which is a little bit more of the industrial look. And I think going back to our earlier discussions, some of the hard line industrial look we pulled back from. We wanted to make that building fit in a little bit more with the architecture of Delafield, but not yet be the same architecture. So I think that this is sort of respecting the spirit of what has been here, was created by Mr. Lang. I don't think it's necessarily an element that's detrimental to the building. And I don't think that if we made it a lot bigger, I didn't want it to be a lot bigger. We wanted to keep it as small as possible, and there was discussion whether it should be there or not. And our directive was to design something that looks good. So in doing that, we didn't do a flat gable. We did a gable that's got some depth to it as well. It's not occupiable, obviously. The back end is opened up, which you don't see. So we can help to brace the flagpole as well. So it does actually do something from a utility standpoint as well, because that flagpole is sticking up in the air, and this helps to brace it and anchor it and give the building, a very defined center focus. So that's as much as I know, maybe.
I think Kent hit the nail on the head with that. So.
All right, and so to follow up, I'm curious, just from a building standpoint, when dates stopped being on cornerstones and they started getting higher in the building. I mean, I know that there's one on the building south of it, but was the date something that was like on the list of options to fill the void to try to, or what's the significance? I mean, I know it was built in 2024, but I find it a little odd, I don't see it a lot, where there's a really pronounced, hey, this was built in this is the year this was built, as the prominent peak piece of.
Jim, I can't answer that. I don't know.
Because that element is odd to me. But I'm not the king of Delafield. I'm just on the plan commission.
As people know, I was lucky enough to do a lot of work here in Delafield over the years, and we did have a lot of cornerstones with the dates on them. Again, I'm not sure. I mean, Rob Gerbitz and I did a lot of the cornerstones with the dates on them for Mr. Lang.
Is this Rob's idea?
I don't know. I honestly do not. I have not had any discussions with it. I don't know. Quite honestly, just a matter of note, Pete Davis was the project architect on this project. Pete, after 24 years, decided it was time to move on and do something else. So I'm now the project architect, and I am the architect of record, by the way. But I was not privy to all the internal discussions, but I don't think there really were any regarding why. It's just, this is what we want you to do, and we'd like to study this, so from our standpoint, we want to make it conform with the building as best we could. So.
All right, I'll just be on record for saying I like the smart design, the way it was initially planned, and how the other building kind of was the feature point, so I'll just leave it at that. But.
Yeah, I couldn't quite figure out if the target was the flag or the target was the year. So I kind of echo Tim's comments, like, boy, because it's such a special building, that's why we're putting the year up there. But I kind of agree. It looked cleaner before, but it's fine. I wouldn't vote against it, but.
I'll have to go back and just, there was a compliment I think I paid on the initial design of the building, is the arched windows on the top. I know those aren't free. But on the top, it's a nice touch. I mean, and like I said, those are the types of, I think there's some great detail in this building without a gable, is my point.
Okay, so we're looking for a motion.
I'll move approval of the signage as presented, the flagpole and gable,
I'll second.
Staff review, is that it?
Subject to staff review.
Yeah.
I'll second.
All right, is there any other discussion?
Just one question. I know you guys are on the architect side. When will it be done? Can you help us with our most recent completion?
We have another member who's doing this here.
We're shooting for midsummer. Well, I'll echo Dan's,
It's not a great answer.
Dan's inquiry,
actually. Like,
just
let's
saying.
get it going. Like, geez.
Just saying, it went from, why are you letting this happen, to when is it gonna open? Those are really-
It's a
So
lot.
you
I
guys
mean,
have won a
that's-
lot of people over with.
I mean, I don't know, just, you know, it's hard to get workers, it's hard to get stuff done, I get it, but this is going
Yeah,
on
that's
a
exactly
long,
right.
long time.
There's a lot of people that have been working on this building very, very hard, and I think there were some slowdowns that, there were things that are out of the control of CCI and out of the control of Hendricks that were more utility-based issues. So everybody knows that they need to
Yeah.
get her done.
It'd be
And
bad to have another summer, all summer with this
oh
is
no,
going on.
yeah,
That's not the plan.
the
That's it, I
intent.
just had to get my question in.
We'll just say the weekly meetings are very serious these days. So
Okay. Keep up the heat, keep up the heat.
All right, is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay, I'm sorry.
Abstentions? Passes. Okay.
Thank you
we'll
very
move-
much.
Yep, thank you. Keep working hard. We want to see customers in the building. All right, I'll move on to D, DLC 0793021002, 705 Genesee Street, owner 705 Genesee Street LLC, applicant Brian Roning. Applicant is requesting business plan of operation approval for a restaurant and barn known as Voodoo Lake Country. Is the applicant here? Come on up, gentlemen. If you guys could just make sure you've got your red light on, and if you can each give us your name and address.
Brian Ronning, my address is 1916 Summit Ave in Waukesha, Wisconsin.
Bruce Ronning, 1910 Oregon Trail in Englewood, Florida.
Parker Conover, 1 East Main, Madison, 53703.
Great, thank you much. Amy, you're up.
Okay, so Mike, if you can put my screen on, I think we probably want to use that for this one. So the applicant is proposing to occupy the rest of the first floor of the easternmost building. So if you'll remember, Brunch came in several months ago, and they're going to occupy the area on the screen. Now, you can't really tell, but it's the shaded area on the north, a little bit more than half of the building. And then the applicant's proposing the south half. The original building plans did include a common bathroom. That's no longer going to be the case. Each tenant will have their own bathroom space within their area. And then they will also have outdoor seating in the remainder of the, I guess I'll call it patio area that was intended for that purpose. They're proposing a bar restaurant style business that will sell unique craft beverages and atypical bar food. They are a franchise business known as Voodoo Brewing Company, so I believe their beers will have the Voodoo brand name on it. And then in the packet, you'll see several pictures. There is a floor plan, by the way, in the packet. You'll see some interior pictures of what the building will look like. Inside, and then on the exterior, I mean, I really didn't think this through when the applicant came in, but they are proposing changes in the planting bed. So the original approval for the property did have a couple of planter beds. They're going to have a pretty solid block of planters that separates the passersby from the seating area, which is actually probably a pretty nice feature. And then they will also have you have to zoom in a little bit, but some mural-style decorative planters at the corner of that corner entrance and then on each end of the planters. And then that style of decoration will also be mimicked inside the building. That part really should come back as a site plan and appearance review. It is an exterior change to the property. And then they also need to come back for signage. So depending on your urgency in getting open, you could come back for both probably. And you could get some feedback tonight on the exterior improvements. It's important they come in and get the business plan of operation because they need to go through the liquor license process, and Molly needs to know that the operation itself has been approved, and then they are subject to the, where the city is out of their liquor licenses, and we need to acquire additional licenses from neighboring communities and/or go through another process. So I'm sure they're anxious to get that process moving forward. They are aware of I sent them the multi-tenant signage program, and so when they come in with their signage, they will need to meet that. We don't really, typically, the city does not allow, it's hard to tell whether or not the intent was to have internally lit signage, but that wouldn't be allowed downtown, so just work with Hendricks on what you can or can't do. Other than that, they intend to have 5 full-time employees, 5 part-time employees, open 10 a.m. to midnight, 7 days a week. They do intend on closing at 10 p.m. most nights, but they just want to have that open opportunity for special type of events. Hours of delivery would be generally from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., and then the garbage pickup is down in the parking area, below parking area managed by Hendricks. There would not be any outdoor storage, hazardous chemicals, et cetera. They are proposing live music Wednesdays through Saturdays from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. I guess you may want a little bit additional information on whether or not that's happening inside, outdoors, if the doors are going to be open, and whether or not that's okay. And then parking, I believe the applicant was still working with the property owner to determine if they're going to use any of those lower level spaces. So as a recommendation, I do say that to approve the business plan of operation for the restaurant bar, that is a permitted use by right, that they will need to obtain a liquor license prior to commencing operation, and that you should determine whether or not any conditions should be required regarding live music, and then the exterior improvements will need to come back. But if you'd like to give them feedback, please do.
All right, gentlemen, maybe you can give us a little background on Voodoo and what anticipate your operations looking like, so we have a better understanding. I know I spent some time on the website looking at some of your other locations in Cincinnati and Erie and Denver and so forth, but for maybe those that didn't, can you help us out with that?
Yeah, certainly. So I'll begin, and I'll let Brian give you his background, because he's really the one that's going to be running it. We've been looking for something to tie Brian's experiences as a chef to for several years. One of the franchises we came across over a year ago was Voodoo. We like I think you said it very well, it's kind of a cut above. It's a restaurant that happens to have global award-winning beer. It's focused on beer and food that's a cut above normal bar food. It is not normal chicken wing bar food type culinary events. And that's where we settled on from a Voodoo standpoint. It looks a little different. It's very colorful. And that was the franchise that we settled on. When we had the opportunity to go into this building, it kind of became a pretty good match for us to be on that corner with the Voodoo franchise. It's going to be a family business. I'm going to be involved, even though I live in Florida. My son is trained as a chef. He's an executive chef today in Waukesha, and will be operating the restaurant. But my entire family lives here. All of my children, all of my grandchildren live in and around this area. And so it will be a family event, and it'll be run as a family business. Give me your background.
Yeah, so I've been culinary driven for the past 20 years of my life, anywhere from Madison out further west of the state, back home here in Waukesha area. I've done everything in the restaurant business that you can think of, from washing dishes, bussing tables, bar back, bartending, and like he said, all the way up now to executive chef. I hit executive sous chef at 23 years old, which is rare. I mean, that's pretty hard to do. So I know the kitchens, I know all aspects of this industry. Currently executive chef for a very large catering company. You guys can probably figure out which one it is in Waukesha. And yeah, I needed something to do that's gonna showcase me. Like my dad said, the food is a cut above. I'm not gonna just have, here's your Frank's Buffalo Wings and, a cheap beer. Our beer is more expensive than a Miller Lite. It's going to be in the $8 to $12 range for a glass of beer, but it's all craft, it's all award-winning. We will have guest taps from around the area. We do want to pull options from local breweries around here, maybe hit Madison, Milwaukee, places like that to get some of their, more craft beer to us as well. And yeah, like my dad said, it's a family business. I keep joking with my kids. They're, my daughter's 4. I said, 5 years, you're going to become working for me and we're going to be washing dishes. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. Oh, no, you are. So we plan on keeping it around and plan on, having fun with it. That's the number one goal for this is to have fun.
As a foodie, I'm curious about your atypical food, and I'm just also curious if, and maybe I'm being too narrow-minded about this area, but have you done any market testing? I'm curious as to what the atypical food is, but if, the people who are prone to go to that don't care for it, I'm curious about that.
Yeah, I've spent the last 10 years in this area and classically trained in Madison at MATC. So I know all varieties of food. I know how to work with what the customer wants. I don't anticipate a menu sticking around there for years at a time. I can't stand that, actually. I think that's number one way to close your restaurant and close your business. I do understand through the health department I have to have the menu submitted and all that kind of stuff, and I'm willing to do that work for fresher, newer, more innovative foods in a more timely manner. So like stuff that I have written down right now, just on the top of my head, we don't have a menu because I have to use probably about 60% of what Voodoo franchise uses. Typically, they give you 80% of their menu and you can have the 20%. But with my background, they're going to allow me to have a little bit more fun than most of the owners do. So some stuff that I have written down right now is like a salmon BLT, a nice thin cut of salmon, bacon, avocado, lettuce, tomato. Really good with that. Some cool breakfast stuff. I know brunch is going next door, but we're also going to have a brunch as well. It's called shashuka. It's a Middle Eastern, kind of West African dish. It's involving chickpeas simmered in tomatoes, and you actually poach the eggs right into this broth, the kind of goodness, and you serve it with toast. Really tasty, really new. And I think the people around here would really dig it. They would really like it. It's going to be something, it's not going to be, strange molecular gastronomies and all that kind of stuff that my lawyer over here is freaking out because he's hearing that and he doesn't want to deal with the HACCP, and I don't want to deal with the HACCPs of those because I've dealt with those and they're not fun. So.
Thank you.
I just noticed that the Voodoo logos and things are, have some uniqueness to them, some skulls and different creatures and things like that. I would say just as far as like your planters and things, what you do on the inside is really completely up to whatever you want to do.
A lot of those planters have changed since that rendering because we've talked with Hendricks about what we can do. They already said that they have planters that have been approved. Okay. So we're just going to copy what they use. The signage, we're just going to, that's one thing that we're just going to say, okay, if that's the signage we have to use, that's the signage we're going to use. That's not a deal breaker at all through us.
Okay. But if you're in a thoughtful way to help, like the planter idea you had, there was those 2-cylinder planters with
They're
more
beer barrels.
Okay, beer barrels.
Yep.
Decorating them, I think, in your store kind of vibe, if that's the right word, as long as it's subtle and not taking away from the overall.
Yeah.
We've spent a lot of time improving this building and the architecture, and we're very particular about those kind of things, particularly in our historic downtown area. Small elements like that, a couple of beer barrel type things with that, I would think the planning commission makes the decision, but I would think subtle things like that would probably be okay. I'm curious to hear if you guys looked at that in the packet and what your thoughts were. But my general, as long as it's subtle and not totally in your face type of thing, I think we could probably live with that because you do have a little different story there. I think you're trying to attract a bit of a younger audience, and those are the kind of things you're not going to be able to tell what you're trying to do inside there without some hints.
Right.
Yeah, we've had a lot of conversation with the Hendricks people on what the outside of the building is going to look like. The renderings that were done by our architect to give them some confidence of what the outside was going to look like. We want to match downtown Delafield. We know where we are, and we want the building to match what the rest of the downtown is. This is important to us. Again, it's a family business. It's important that my granddaughters are there and can be proud of walking into that place and understand it when they look at it from the street that it fits the rest of downtown. Yeah, there's skulls on the inside design. There is a skull design that goes on back behind the bar. It's part of the voodoo design. But the outside, we want to match the building. And those planters have been changed to match the Hendricks design that's already been approved. And the barrels will actually be turned inward. So the design that the barrel is wrapped in, which is the voodoo design, will be turned inward to the patio and not face the street.
Okay.
So those are the type of conversations we've been having with Hendricks since June to get to this point today.
Okay.
Good, I'm glad you said that. That was one of the sticking points I saw is, don't get me wrong, they stand out. And for your restaurant, that's what you want.
Yep.
It just doesn't fit
Yeah, we agree.
that over, and
we
so
agree.
I'm glad you're saying what you're saying. I like that.
That was a standard that they've done in the past at Voodoo's, and when it hit Hendricks, they're like, well, we might need to take a look back at this, and we took a look back, and they said, no problem, we'll just turn them in so they're facing the patio, so if you're sitting at that, you're seeing it. They're all of our beer labels,
Okay.
is what they are.
Love the beer labels, but inside.
Right.
Yes,
Yep.
exactly. Exactly.
Sure.
I think you guys are picking the right spot at the right time to do this. I mean, I think just like in like 16-point font on a little postcard above the door, if people knew Voodoo was in downtown, I mean, you're going to attract a crowd. I think it's a good call.
Thank you.
The impression on the rendering is a backlit sign that labels this as the Voodoo building, and there's some tenants above you that probably, or they're spending a lot more on signage that take objection to that. So I encourage it, yeah, signage is coming back to us, but it does look like it's a backlit sign with some mural art type stuff on the barrels, which is a tough sell for the building designed purposely to look like a turn-of-the-century, like hotel type thing. So be cognizant of that. And I wish they hadn't changed their logo 2 years ago, because I like the like kind of loose scripted font.
Yep.
I mean, that could fit in like a, whatever it looks like next to Versace or whatever. I mean, so this looks a more Hubba Bubba to me. But I think, I don't know that you're going to need that much glitz on the outside to draw people there, because the downtown area and this general area is crying for a place like this.
Cool. Good
So
deal.
I'm,
That's what we think.
I think you picked a good location, and work really closely with very conservative tenants to see what you can do with your signage. Because we'll be keeping a good eye on it, because we're going to be told to. We're going to be held accountable for what it looks like.
Like I
just
said,
you will.
we're working with Hendricks, and we're just
Yeah.
gonna copy whatever they're gonna do.
Yeah, and see if you can see if they're taking down the old logos at the other places, put them up here. Because I did look at some of the other sites, and they're in sometimes they're in renovated old buildings.
Yes.
In some of the other locations, and they're respecting the architecture and other stuff. And
Yes.
sometimes they're in areas that are really looking for a really loud urban vibe, and they're definitely delivering, and that's not what we're looking for. So I mean, you know where you've been around the area a little while, so you understand, so.
Yep.
But I'll make a motion to approve the business plan of operation as presented, as long as signage is coming back later.
Second.
All right, is there any further
All right,
discussion?
Was there any other caveats?
We had
the
talk about music?
part-
Yeah, the music,
yeah,
that's what I was
for
going
sure.
to say.
Well, discuss it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's part of the
Well,
discussion.
I was trying to remember what we did here last year on the Hill at ID. Didn't we let them go to?
They have,
We should keep
I
it
should have looked.
uniform, I'm thinking.
Well, theirs is a little unique. They have it's 1 day a week, special event kind of.
1 day a month.
with-
Yeah, it's
is
like
it
1 day a month,
Yeah.
yeah.
Once a month, and then I think Belfry might have it 1 day a week.
I think
They
they're,
they have different days.
But Revere's has it outside, if you recall.
And so does Fishbones.
Sometimes Thursday, Friday, Saturday in the summer.
it-
Right.
I just don't know if it's
Yeah, we
time now
talked-
to get this all together. and have-
I wouldn't mind having that come back, but as far as, we haven't discussed the amplification of the music either. as far as what kind of music could be outside.
Certainly not anti-music, we just need to get.
Yeah,
Right.
so.
And
for
we,
the-
we had that discussion with Hendricks as well in our leases and our LOIs and stuff like that. We're gonna, of course, keep it to a respectable level. We do have tenants above us, we do understand that. We have no drum set in our lease. We don't, nobody's gonna come in with a big drum set to make ruckus and lots of major noise. We're looking for, acoustic music, probably inside for the most part, with the speakers outside, playing what he's playing inside or they're playing inside. So nothing, it does look a little brash, it does look a little hardcore, heavy metal inside, but that's not the type of performance that we're gonna be looking for to come into us. I'm not gonna get Slipknot in there to start playing.
Thank you.
Don't even know who they are.
You probably don't want
Let me get my mask out real quick.
So what's in the document, just as a refresher, is the applicant intends to provide live music Wednesday through Saturday from 5 PM to 9 PM. And I think that's a pretty typical time, 9 o'clock. Generally, we don't get complaints from neighbors as long as people shut down the music at 9 o'clock. And I think your closest residential people are gonna be a couple stories up on the
Across the street.
condos. And then maybe there's a resident above the jewelry store, over there. So if we get complaints, that's likely where we're
music's
gonna
inside,
get them
right?
from.
The music we would keep
Inside.
inside, yeah. I don't think we're gonna have enough space on the patio to put a performance outside.
But the doors could be open, which.
They have the renderings done with, do they have the garage doors on the renderings? I'm
No,
not sure.
They just have the big double doors
Yeah,
on the
and
patio.
we're not-
We're not doing the garage doors.
Yeah, we were gonna do garage doors, as you guys might have seen in a lot of their other locations. We are not gonna do the garage doors on this location.
I know.
Now we know where that
Well, if the music's inside, what's the?
Speakers, they'll have.
We're gonna have speakers out on the patio for them to
But that
hear,
certainly
but.
can be controlled.
Yes.
Right,
The
yep.
volume.
Yeah, Hendricks was very worried about our music levels because of the upstairs tenants. They went into a location down in Texas, I want to say, and they said their music was very loud, and we're hoping that you guys aren't going to be playing it that loud. I said, well, we're going to be respectful at our levels to the other tenants. Brunch closes at 2 o'clock, I think, maybe 3 o'clock would be my guess. Most of them upstairs, I'm hearing, are office buildings, so they're out by 5 or 6. So of course, during the lunch rush and during the early parts of the morning dinner rush, we'll keep it down. But then it could get up a little bit louder, but we'll never break noise ordinance levels.
Well, I'm not sure.
We don't have a really solid
Yeah, we don't
enforceable
have a
noise
real
ordinance.
good noise.
Nuisance,
Decibel,
general
decibel.
nuisance, I think.
Yeah, it's not like we have a decibel level at a certain distance to say.
Gotcha.
Are you agreeing to acoustic only?
We did in our lease.
Oh, okay.
No drum
Acoustic
sets
only.
is what
It is it's in the LOI, the lease has been developed, we're getting ready to sign the lease, which is one of the reasons we're here tonight. And in the lease, it says acoustic only.
So this isn't that far, I mean, they're doing less than I think Fishbone's got approval for.
Yeah.
And they're in a residential neighborhood.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't have a
fine
problem with that.
5 to
But it's
9.
a good question to ask so we understand, right?
Yeah.
So Tim, your motion would encompass that?
Well, his motion's approving what they have in their application, which is live music Wednesday through Saturday,
Say
5 to 9
acoustic and no
p.m.
drum set? Okay, well, I'll amend my motion to include contingent upon music being limited to acoustic only with no drum set.
Second.
Scott. You got that, Crystal?
Question.
Yep,
Do we have liquor licenses available?
we do not.
Molly's working with them. I believe they're seeking a neighboring community license, so.
So let me touch on that a little bit. We can operate with just a beer only. We can start with just a beer only. We are not gonna be a bar that has bottles of Jack Daniels and Crown in the back and you come in and you order your bourbon and Coke. We do batched cocktails. So they're coming in through a distributor, batched already, and all my bartenders will need to do is just top it off with, say, like a ginger beer or a sparkling water of some sort. So I believe there is a beer only available.
There is.
There is,
That
so,
we could open with.
yeah, so it's the
Those
combination.
are unlimited.
Yeah. He took the words out of my mouth. So the beer is unlimited. We're working with Molly in the clerk's office to get the beer on the upcoming agendas and work with them on that. At the same time, we've also given a letter of intent to the clerk's office to say that we are seeking the other Class B, the liquor. And because Delafield doesn't have any more currently in its quota, Molly's going to work with some neighboring communities to see if we can find one and actually transfer one to Delafield. That's more of a long-term, I think, 6 months, 6 to 8 months. But in the immediate future and for opening, we are very comfortable with having a beer only.
And just for the planning commission's knowledge, we have another process we're going through to try to create a special district downtown, which will give the city 2 more. Some paperwork's required that we have to fill out, and we're been working on it for a few months already, so
And I
anticipate having that within 3 or 4 months as well.
And I believe by fall, you're going to be close to the population level of getting another one through the quota system.
We're not counting on that.
Neither are we, neither are we.
Transfer from another municipality in this special district, which will give the city 2 more of its own. Those are much more likely scenarios.
Agreed, agreed. And under the new alcohol bill that goes into effect in May, although this provision might have already gone into effect, it's increased the geographic range in which Molly can look for additional licenses. So we're hopeful and trying to work closely with the clerk's office to make that a reality and bring it before Common Council.
Question unrelated to that, I saw that law. Does the wedding barn that we have on 83 get affected by that new law and not having a liquor license?
My understanding is yes, and I don't know where they are in needing to apply for a liquor license, full liquor license. But, I mean, bottom line is we're out. We're doing what we can to get additional from other communities. Once the community gives it to us, they can never have it back. So
If
it's
that
a
wedding,
serious commitment by the other municipalities. The town just gave us another one.
As your attorney, you're not about to give official advice, but what were you going to say?
never. If the wedding barn follows the proper process, there's a quota exception for certain wedding barns that are operating for a certain period of time prior to the bill going into effect. So they would actually be able to get an above quota license even though it doesn't currently exist.
Thanks.
Any other questions about Act 73, I'd be happy to help.
You can see why he's here with us tonight.
All right, any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes.
Good luck.
Thank you very much. We look forward to having you all at the grand opening.
Yeah.
We will see you again before then.
And just so you know, if you want to put up like a special banner or something for grand opening and stuff, we have a process for that.
Okay.
Just reach back to the city. You can pre-advertise up to 90 days before you actually open.
Okay.
So come to us to fill out the form and it'll get approved.
I'll do that. Thank you so much. Thank you all.
Okay. We'll move on to number 11, comprehensive plan zoning and ordinance revisions, 11A. Well, let me see a second here. Are you the applicants that were not here earlier that we might have already?
No, I don't.
Are you Mono?
He's with the Commodore,
Oh, he's with the Commodore, okay,
Oh,
so the off-premise signing.
okay.
I seen him come in late. I thought maybe it was the other couple.
What I will say, if you want to go back to Divine Redeemer, this probably could have easily been on the consent agenda. It's a pretty simple business plan of operation if you want to take it up.
Sure.
I just had a couple of questions
Okay.
about it. Okay, I'm going back to that agenda item so we can continue the discussion on it. I thought they were kind of limiting themselves by their hours, and I was going to suggest that they look at modifying them so they don't inadvertently get themselves in trouble unnecessarily.
Those were going to be my questions as far as what happens with Saturday events, if they're operating this building under different entities.
Yeah.
You know, if this is just limited exactly to the preschool operation.
Yeah.
And then maybe other uses of the building would be under different business plans. Because I've seen that happen, I'm just wondering if that would be the case, because I was gonna encourage them to add other hours.
Right.
Well,
If
if you wanna-
they could do that, but I don't know if we'd set them back.
That was
Come
my
back.
point. They're
They
not
haven't
even
even
really out of the
started
ground right
construction
now.
yet,
So
so
They just
I'm glad
started.
they're
have
here,
footings
but.
in and foundation, and
Oh, they
there's,
did, okay.
yeah, there's a lot to go yet,
Yeah.
so another month is not going to.
Yeah, I just have them come
Okay,
back.
that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay. We're bouncing around on you, Crystal. So I'm going back to 11A. Okay, 11A, discussion and action regarding request of Peter Damsgaard, representative Walker's Point Property LLC, to amend the text of Chapter 52 City of Delafield zoning ordinance, specifically Section 52-2309A, and possible other sections related to directional signage in the residential, architectural, and conservancy districts to accommodate off-premise businesses.
Good
Alrighty.
evening. Hello, Keith Trafton. I'm with the Barla Restaurants, W331 South 565, Illinois, in the town of Delafield.
Great, thank you very much.
Okay,
Amy?
so we talked about this last month. Really, all I did was set up the public hearing and put it in a draft ordinance format. But essentially, it's, we're taking the directional signage provisions that apply to the residential, agricultural, and conservancy areas and increasing the square footage from 8 square feet to 32 square feet, and excluding the need for a city letter logo head if certain provisions apply, including that it's directly abutting a state highway for the visibility purposes, and that it can only advertise a legal nonconforming business that operates pursuant to a conditional use permit, and that business has to have frontage on Lake Nagawicca, and the distance from the sign to the business can't exceed 3/4 mile.
21 property that can follow all that.
I was going to say, I can't think of any other place that.
All in favor, aye? No?
Sure.
So I'm
can make your own
recommending common council, that you recommend common council adopt the enclosed ordinance amending the text of section 52-239A related to directional signs permitted in the residential, agricultural, and conservancy districts, subject to city attorney review, and he actually has reviewed this ordinance. But you can leave it in there in case we end up with further tweaks before council.
Loosely connected to this, I forget, I think I asked, is there any signage on Oakwood? Yeah, there used to be that old,
Yeah,
is there anything, are you guys?
It's still
not
there.
in this application.
Are they doing it?
We approached the church. You talk about the church, Oakwood Church?
No.
Right
no.
on.
Right on Oakwood, on the corner of
Right.
Oakwood and Nagawicca.
So
That
that's
old
the
lighted sign.
Chuckles property. We have asked them to be within the size limit that's in the ordinance. It's where it says 283, the directional.
Correct, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah,
You plan to put something there?
correct. And it's within the ordinance size, yep.
Just curious.
Oh, and then if this text goes through, they get to come back again and actually apply for the sign.
The sign is there, it just doesn't have anything on it right now.
Yeah, I think
Not the-
they'll have to come back in for this one on 83 and that little one on Nagawicca.
I live a mile down the road, so I'm happy to come back.
I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes.
Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great evening.
Yep, you do the same, thanks. Okay, we'll move on to B, discussion and action regarding a request of the City of Delafield Planning Commission to amend the text of Chapter 52 City of Delafield zoning ordinances, specifically Sections 52-110, permitted accessory uses in all residential districts, and 52-291, zoning board of appeals. Amy?
Okay, so same thing, we talked about this last month, and really, I'm just incorporating that draft language as part of having the public hearing and recommendation. I didn't make any other changes. The city attorney took a look at it, and that's why you see blue and red. It's just the two of us using two different computers. So he cleaned up a couple of, a little bit of the verbiage, but nothing substantive has changed.
So looking for a motion on this one as well.
Does this one include the zoning board of appeals in the motion? Or is that a separate one?
It'll all be one ordinance. So
Only
one
question
motion
I had
is
on-
fine.
Only question I had on, I don't have any questions on the first part, but the second part, the changes that the attorney made on the last sentence, present at all board meetings, it doesn't, is board defined somewhere?
So I thought that too at first. It's inside of the zoning board of appeals section. That's why he did
Okay.
that, to
All
not
right.
be repetitive. He likes to remove words
Okay.
whenever he can. I shouldn't speak for him, but generally.
He does like to
that's what
remove
I
words.
see.
The fewer words, the
I
better.
like that kind of attorney.
This is the one we're doing, right? I had a few questions. On number 3, roofing materials, where it talks about the different types of materials. Metal roofing may be considered if it is compatible with the principal structure. What if, because this is, people could have large acreage and they want to build a pole barn. Most pole barns have metal roofs. The house itself might not.
So I think we talked about this internally, and the word compatible was used intentionally because it doesn't mean the same. It just means it needs to pair well with it.
The other one was,
If you're comfortable with that verbiage, I mean, that's the idea.
97, is it? Or
97.
It's really hard to make out. Housing livestock is prohibited on lots less than 3 acres in size other than chickens as described herein in section 5210, number 8. And you go down to, is it 108, 198, whatever that is?
108.
108. The keeping of chickens is prohibited in all single-family residential.
Permitted.
Permitted. Chickens is permitted in single-family residential districts, provided that the lot area exceeds 1 acre.
So that's, it's 3 acres unless they meet those provisions.
So you can't keep chickens on 1 acre, and up above it says on less than 3 acres. It's like double language there.
I think it's saying, well, first of all, we actually didn't change, this is how the ordinance has read. And we really didn't look at the chicken section. But I think what it's saying is.
And I don't like talking about chickens.
I think what it's saying is you have to have 3 acres unless you meet the provisions below, which is saying so if you only have an acre, then you can only have 5 adult chickens per acre, not to exceed a total of 20 adult chickens on the premises, may be kept for non-commercial uses. All chickens must be provided adequate shelter with appropriate ventilation. Chickens must be allowed to roam in a confined pen outside of the shelter. I don't know why that wouldn't apply all the time, but so on and so forth. I think it's saying if you have 3 acres, you get chickens and there aren't really any rules that go with it.
So you can have as many as you want.
That's how I read it.
We're not getting any chicken complaints, and everybody that has chickens is happy.
Yeah, I helped write this 12 years ago.
Yeah, it was painful.
Yeah.
So if you have like 1/10 less than an acre, you can't have chickens.
Correct, not legally.
That's correct. That's the way it has read.
Please, let's not talk about chickens.
I know what's going through Laura's head.
Oh, yeah.
Do you have less than an acre?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I would say, so my comment on that would be, if you want to discuss chickens, I think that it should just be discussed, because we haven't talked about that particular piece in this amendment at all. I would just bring it back at another.
That is, I agree, that is an entirely distinct issue from what the emphasis of this
Been in the paper
movement
a
is.
lot.
It just happens to be in this bigger section.
Okay. I just thought I'd question that. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Amy.
Even if you keep them illegally, though, you have to register them with the Department of Agriculture.
Yeah.
It's a big topic.
Yeah,
And I
right.
can't let the topic go by, but we have no designated person in the city that counts chickens to begin with.
There's no chicken count.
No chicken count?
Maybe that's what we need.
That's an internal conversation. Is that Scott's responsibility or is that Amy's
When
responsibility?
they crow,
It
they
all
count
goes like
themselves.
this, a chicken counter.
Kent, you'll have some free time pretty soon.
Scott's list of things to do, right, Scott? You wouldn't mind.
Definitely.
And so presuming that this passes, and I intend that it will, I intend to vote for it, but the reason that that we have a plan commission approval for individual accessory buildings over 720 square feet is that typically when you're dealing with the smaller lot sizes in that, they're individual consciences with their neighbors and their subdivision covenants and these other things are kicking into place to kind of self-regulate those, and also to allow people to go and buy one of those do-it-yourselfers off of the farm and fleet and stuff like that, right? I mean, so just in case I get questions at council, we can back them up. Okay. That's what I thought. I mean, if I recall correctly.
All right, looking for a motion.
I guess it's my turn. I'll make a motion, recommend to Common Council adopt an ordinance to be prepared by the city planner, city attorney, that is inclusive of the intended text amendments in section 52-110, permitted accessory uses in all residential districts, and 52-291, zoning board of appeals.
Second.
All righty, is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes. Great, that was a tough section to get through. Let's hope the council agrees with us. Okay, we'll move on to 11B. That's right.
11C.
11C.
See.
On to 11C, discussion and provide feedback on potential amendments to Article 511 of Chapter 52, City of Delafield zoning ordinance regarding nonconforming uses, structures, lots, and permits issued prior to this chapter. So this is a new one.
This is a new one.
Continuing down the list.
Oh, okay.
Amy.
So in an effort to continue on with our text amendment project, I chose the last least difficult one. They start to get more challenging. Anyway.
There's a big push for signage next.
So right now, you've got a nonconforming use, structure, lot, and permits issued prior to this chapter section. Nonconforming structure laws have changed over time from the statutes, and so we just wanted to take a look at it and make sure it's reading as clear as possible. So under existing nonconforming uses, that's when a structure has a nonconforming use, not that the structure is necessarily nonconforming in location itself. It's the use that's nonconforming. That still has the 50% provision that is allowed per statute. We're not proposing any changes here. I am just asking that one word be added, and that's equalized assessed value. That is the basis for determining 50%. If you just say assessed value, then you can run into applicants trying to have their private appraisal and then getting into an argument with the city, where this allows that number to be determined consistently by the city assessor. It's a common mechanism. So that's the only change there. 52-198, it says abolishment. I'm just reserving that and removing the language because the intent of that entire section was listed above. So it was just a repeat. My guess is it was a remnant from when statutes have previously changed. Then existing nonconforming lots, if you'll remember, we went through this in great detail about a year ago, and it seems to be working really well. And so, again, no proposes are changed there, unless you think that something hasn't been going well, but we haven't had too many requests. And part of that's probably because it's very specific on when they can or and can't come here. Then, no changes to the changes in substitutions. That's essentially saying if you change a structure to conform with the code, you can't go back And then there's the section on nonconforming characteristics of residential structures, and really that could apply, you should really have it apply to any structure. I don't think I even mentioned that. But you need to somehow manage and deal with structures that don't meet the setbacks and offsets and floor area ratio and open space provisions. And right now, I would say that it's a little vague in that it says that they may be structurally altered provided they do not create a greater degree of encroachment or a greater degree of nonconformity. So a greater degree of nonconformity does leave it a little open-ended. Some people would say, well, if you're adding on and not going any closer to a lot line, or if you're vertically expanding, you're not increasing the degree of nonconformity. And other people would argue that you are, that if you're the neighbor, you're seeing twice the structure potentially than what you saw previously. So.
That's non-conforming.
Non-conforming. So I'm throwing out a couple of options for discussion to get started. And then if we have enough discussion here, good, some direction, I can bring it back next month with specific language and potentially scheduling a public hearing. So one would be, this, by the way, is per statute, so you have to allow this. Limiting improvements to allowing improvements, remodeling, repair, maintenance, and renovation within the existing three-dimensional envelope. So communities used to be able to limit improvements on non-conforming structures to 50% as well. Now you can't do that. You have to allow unlimited remodeling, renovation, et cetera. So that will be in there and would be permitted administratively. So the question is if you want to leave it there, and that's the only improvement that can be made, or if you go to another step, which would also allow reconstruction, which, by the way, in unincorporated areas, they have to allow reconstruction. For some reason, I think the statutes, they're different chapters in the state statutes for cities, villages, and towns. And I feel like there may have been an error in not making that consistent, but so some communities have to allow reconstruction. So you could allow reconstruction, you could allow vertical expansions. If you did that, you could determine whether or not you want those to come to Plan Commission for consideration so that you can place conditions on any approval, or if you want to just allow that administratively. You could also allow additional improvements by saying you can add on but not go any closer to a lot line if it's non-conforming from offset or road setback, for example. However, the floor area ratio and open space should not be further impacted. And I would recommend that because you're making, if you allow something that does not conform to floor area ratio and it is a conforming lot, so it does conform with all the other requirements, and you make it even bigger, you're just creating a greater degree of nonconformity at that point.
Amy, on that one, which I agree that seemed to be strike the right chord. Let me see if I'm understanding it.
Yep.
In option 3, to me, what this suggests is that we're going to allow them to do what they would have been able to do under the current guidelines and laws, correct?
Well, number 3, so the current statutes require communities to allow renovation, maintenance, repair. If you read our current ordinance where it says you can't create a greater degree of encroachment or nonconformity, some would say that option 3 fits that still.
But the floor area ratio and open space are not further impacted, wouldn't necessarily, those aren't in the current law, are they?
They're not in the current or city regulation. Well, if you're increasing the nonconformity of floor area ratio and open space even now, you would be increasing the degree of nonconformity. So that shouldn't be permitted even now.
Yeah. The point I'm making is if I am interpreting that properly, I think we should allow people to remodel or add pursuant to getting a building permit that's within the guidelines of the current floor area ratio and setback requirements.
Well, when you say setback requirements,
I mean, they might already be
So maybe the setback's 10, but they're non-conforming,
but
so
if they're
currently
non-conforming,
5.
but if they're, I guess the other way to think about it is if their lot is 5 feet off compared to what it would be today, but they have the ability to add an addition, then I guess, I might be talking myself out of 3, I guess I could see why a neighbor would say, well, yeah, they're not exceeding the floor area ratio, but when you built that code, you weren't envisioning people being 5 feet closer to my house.
So your addition should be, you can put the addition on, it just needs to be at the appropriate setback, not the non-conforming one.
Right.
You could say that all lateral.
But that's a
and then it's
no-brainer. If a house is too close to a property line or to the lake, and someone's proposing an addition away from that, and it meets all the setback requirements and zoning requirements, I'm issuing the permit.
Yeah, but not all communities
It's not
do.
getting any closer, it's not within a setback, so that's an easy one. It's
Yeah.
when someone is supposed to be 10 feet off the side property line, they're only 5 feet off, and they want to expand the building within the 10-foot setback. Now what?
In my mind, that shouldn't be allowed. They can
Well, I
put
agree,
the
that's what we
addition
should be
on, but they
addressing.
need to move to the appropriate setback for any expansion.
And I do think that if even the addition at the appropriate setback should be specified, it does provide clarity, so,
Yeah, I was where you were when you said it's a no-brainer, but now that I think about it, they shouldn't be allowed to add another story when they're already encroaching on the standard 8 feet or whatever it is on the zoning, and then create shadows or, just a feeling of, I'm in the city of
So-
Milwaukee, not Delafield.
And one thing that's important too, to know, this section is for non-conforming structures on conforming lots, because if it was a non-conforming lot, you'd get kicked to that other section, which does allow some relief on non-conforming lots. So if you had a really narrow lot and the house is only 5 feet from the lot line, that section does allow you to add on and not go any closer to the lot line, provided you get plan commission approval, because it's really narrow and you are very limited. But this would really refer to non-conforming structures on conforming lots, which happens. I think a large majority are on non-conforming lots, but we do need to address this scenario. So what I'm hearing on option 3 is to maybe change that language to say, any additions need to comply with the setbacks, but they would be allowed.
Yes, that's what I think.
Horizontal or vertical,
Right.
or
Right.
vertical.
Yeah, but they most likely would be going vertical because they're already constrained by the non-conforming home. But that takes care of the issue I was raising, that, okay, then they can build straight up.
But there is a limit on the vertical.
there's a limit
That's
on
what you're
that.
getting at. It's-
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you can exceed the vertical limit.
Right, right. But they would have to have it architecturally where it's
Within those setbacks.
within that appropriate setback.
I think,
So maybe they have
I
to
mean,
step back 5 feet and then go up.
I think when you
Right.
buy, even if it's on a non-conforming lot, if you buy something, it's a reasonable expectation, you're gonna be able to build something that meets code on top of the stuff that you bought that didn't.
Yes.
So I think that's leaving it, having that stated like that makes a ton of sense.
Okay? So option 4 is the most flexible. Do we even want to go that,
I don't think
discuss
so.
that? I mean, that is allowing additions and, well, it's not anything. It's
It's
kind
the
of match.
closest of our 4 choices.
It's matching the non-conforming lot section without having a non-conforming lot. It's allowing you to have those additions, allowing you to have that lateral addition close to, or let's say the house is 5 feet from the lot line, allowing you to have the addition 5 feet from the lot line, even though you have a 200-foot wide lot, and there's a conforming location for it. That would be option 4.
Which if I just followed you, I don't think makes sense.
Yeah, so if you all agree with option 3, that should be pretty easy to write up. Everybody, raising hands?
That's the one I chose.
So, well, I can draft that, and then I will refer to the non-conforming lot section, because that is important to understand the difference between non-conforming structures on conforming lots versus non-conforming lots. And it really should be all structure. I mean, you
That
have
was
to
my-
have
yeah.
a section for all structures. It's not just residential ones.
So can we incorporate all structures in the revision?
Yep.
Unless somebody thinks that's not a good idea.
Other than that, that's it.
It can't be one and done on a.
Enjoy that, because
It's getting worse.
We're having a meeting tomorrow to decide what's next, and
Make it short.
we'll see. Well, there's nothing short left.
there's nothing short.
Your meeting.
Okay, move on to 12, reports to city officials. I'll refer you to any correspondence. Planner, any additional report or comments?
No, just, I guess next month is February, never mind.
Okay, building inspector?
Nothing. Nothing this month.
All righty, number 13, excuse me, planning commission meeting dates and deadlines. Regular meeting will be February 28th. Regular meeting submittal deadline will be January 31st, which is today, 2024. Seeing no further business, we are now adjourned at 8:26.